Chapter 9, Endurance, Sua Wanci. How dare you hit me? Su Ruihe's voice immediately rose, filled with a mix of anger and embarrassment. What's there to be afraid of? Su Wanci shook her slightly numb wrist, took a step forward, and met Su Ruihe's furious gaze. She coldly bit her lip. Su Ruihe, watch your mouth. She held onto Su Ruihe's chin with her fingers. Her voice was faint, but the icy glint in her eyes and the chilling atmosphere around her made Su Ruihe shiver. If there's a next time, I, as your cousin, won't mind personally teaching you how to be a decent human being and how to speak. With that, Su Wanci let go of her chin. She got into her car, started the engine, and drove away. Su Ruihe clenched her fist tightly, and her gaze gradually turned sinister. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Fu Corporation, top floor, CEO's office. I'm sorry, Mr. Fu. I wasn't able to bring Miss Su back, Xingheng said with his head lowered. Fu Jing Zhou finished signing a contract in his hand before speaking. What did she say, Xing? Heng hesitated for a moment. As he felt Fu Jing Zhou's displeased gaze on him, he quickly explained. Miss Su said, she has nothing now. You have nothing left to use to threaten her. At the words, the file was forcefully closed with a snap. Endurance indeed. Fu Jing Zhou's face visibly darkened. Xingheng didn't dare to linger and kept his head lowered. After a while, Fu Jing Zhou suppressed all his emotions, reopened another file, and said, you may leave. Xingheng nodded and was about to leave when suddenly, the door was pushed open. It was Su Ruihe. Without stopping much, Xingheng nodded at Su Ruihe in greeting and quickly left the CEO's office. After Xingheng left, Su Ruihe hurried towards Fu Jing Zhou's desk, but as she approached the desk, she stopped in front of it and didn't dare to be too presumptuous by throwing herself onto Fu Jing Zhou. Covering her face, she looked at the man behind the desk, her eyes watery. Jing Zhou? Brother, Su Ruihe, who had pretended to be a delicate flower for more than a decade, was already adept at winning a man's sympathy in the shortest time possible. But at this moment, Fu Jing Zhou merely glanced at her with a raised eyebrow. He paid no attention to her delicate appearance. Instead, his gaze lingered for a moment on the distinct handprint on her face, looking at her face. His eyes grew enigmatic. Did Wanci hit you? Su Ruihe nodded while still covering her face, tears silently streaming down. She wanted to elicit his sympathy and deepen his disgust for Su Wanci. However, she didn't expect Fu Jing Zhou to not offer any words of comfort. He simply lowered his head to look at his documents again and threw out a cold remark. You better avoid provoking her from now on. Su Ruihe's face was filled with sadness and unwillingness as she emphasized once again. Jing Zhou, it was her who hit me. That's enough. Fu Jing Zhou's impatience grew more evident. I have things to attend to. You can leave now. But Su Ruihe didn't move. If she left now, Fu Jing Zhou wouldn't see her for a long time to come. Her breath was instantly swallowed up, and Su Wanci found herself trapped between Lu Yu's chest and the countertop, unable to move. Lu Yu half opened his eyes and observed the trembling of her long eyelashes at close range. Unconsciously, he tightened his grip around her waist, pulling her stiff body into his embrace. The force between their lips gradually grew uncontrollable, unable to withstand his assault. The air in Su Wanci's lungs was gradually squeezed out. She pressed her hand against his chest, attempting to push him away. However, Lu Yu remained unmoved, holding onto her tightly. It was only when tears began to well up in her eyes that Lu Yu finally loosened his grip slightly. Su Wanci quickly turned her head aside, taking in deep breaths of fresh air to calm her breath. Lu Yu's pitch-black eyes fixated on the corner of her swollen lips, emotions flickering within his gaze. They seemed like an abyss, endless and dragging her down. The air around them seemed to grow scorching and confined. Lu Yu lowered his head and kissed her fair neck, his voice low and suggestive. Wife, I'm hungry. As he spoke, his fingers deftly moved aside her clothing, slipping inside. His touch was slightly cool, causing Su Wanci to shiver involuntarily. She instinctively pressed his hand, preventing any further movement. Dinner is ready. I'll go dish it out. A faint smile appeared at the corner of Lu Yu's mouth as he finally released her. Su Wanci practically fled the kitchen, leaving the scene as quickly as she could. However, while she might have been able to dodge the start, she couldn't avoid the continuation. After finishing dinner, there was no pause. Lu Yu lifted Su Wanci horizontally, carrying her swiftly upstairs to the master bedroom. After placing her on the bed, his urgency seemed to diminish. His long and slender fingers meticulously removed her clothes one by one. "Does it still hurt?" As he removed the final piece of clothing, he whispered in her ear, "No, it doesn't hurt anymore," when he pressed down on her. Su Wanci turned her head, evading his kiss. "Wait a moment, put on that thing." Lu Yu's movements halted, his arms bracing her on either side. He gazed at her with a deep and mysterious look. 2 seconds later, he pecked her lips, coaxing, "We don't have any at home. Let's do it without for now. I'll buy some tomorrow." "I've already bought some." Su Wanci pointed to the bedside table. There in the drawer, Lu Yu raised an eyebrow, seemingly surprised. He opened the drawer, glanced inside, then closed it again without using any. He met Su Wanci's gaze with a slight curve of his lips. Inappropriate. Too small. Su Wanci. She had bought two types, regular and extra large, and he dared to say they were too small. Before she could voice her thoughts, Lu Yu pressed her down and captured her lips in a deep kiss, drowning out any further sound. The next day, when Su Wanci woke up again, it was already past 9 o'clock, dragging her sore body. She couldn't help but think that it was fortunate she didn't have to go to work these past 2 days. Otherwise, with Lu Yu's endless marital duties, she might have ended up dropping dead. After getting dressed, the first thing Su Wanci did was to retrieve the contraceptive pill she had bought yesterday from her bag. Just as she was about to take one, the bedroom door suddenly opened from the outside. The next moment, Lu Yu walked in. When he noticed the small white pill in her hand, something seemed to flash in his eyes. Not feeling well, he asked in his usual tone,